Our third stop, we got Mr. Corey Nichols here. This is your field, right? Yep. Okay, and then the other two characters with him are his brothers. They all work together, but I'll let him talk about what they got going on here, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I've had this field for 2 years. When I got it, it was Milo stock. I put oats in here for hay, and then Sudan, and got about 5 tons an acre off those crops together. I think both of them was about 2.5 bales an acre, and so I was wanting to put something to put a little bit more cover back on the ground since we kind of robbed it twice last year. Something cheaper since we was dry this spring. Didn't really want to roll the dice on trying to farm. So we're kind of set up for more cattle and hay stuff anyway. So I got a hold of Tyrell, and he made this mix for me. I kind of told him what I was wanting to spend. This is cowpeas, BMR Sudan, the millet, brassica, sun hemp, and that should be it. So, and there might be another plant out here that we're not for sure how it got here, what it's from, but cows ought to eat it. So other than that, it's what do we put? 20 pounds of 20 pounds of fertilizer on it this spring to get it going, and got some pretty good rains on it, and kind of pretty pleased with how it turned out. So
Cows.
I guess we have cows. That tree row in the middle, there's a 20-acre field on the north side of that, and that's where we have our pears turned out. And then this field, we slothed around it, slothed down the middle to kind of break it up into 3 little grazing areas. Right now, we just got them shut in the north end, and then we'll move them to the east side and probably finish on this piece here. So I guess that's about all I got.
What were your rates on your sorghum Sudan?
It was 8 pounds.
8 pounds sorghum Sudan, 8 pounds of cowpeas, 2 pounds pearl millet, 2 pounds of sun hemp, and then a pound of Heinemann and Candy.
Which the sun hemp's a lot better on that side.
I'd say the further, this is
The guy we got
pretty,
the seed from was on mixed pretty good.
this is pretty poor ground right here, but the further north and east you go, it gets quite a bit better. Northfield's pretty good. It looks a lot better than this, but
So did you test it for nitrates before you turned out?
no. We thought we got quite a few bales off it last year, so, and he only put 20 pounds down.
Yeah.
Out of the rain, we figured we'd screw
That was in like May.
yeah.
Probably bred cow?
Pears.
Pears.
Should be bred.
I don't. We've done a lot of this through the years, and I guess one thing I would caution you to go ahead and test everything for nitrates, even if you're in a situation where you don't think you have it. We have had a train wreck before, and because we used to test and we never always came back good, and then so we kind of got lazy and we turned out on a field that we really didn't design for grazing. Either it was just going to be for cover, but we turned out for well, it was a week during the county fair because I didn't want to mess with them. And then about 3 weeks later, well, 1 heat cycle later we started noticing a bunch of cows coming in heat, and we ended up aborting a bunch of fetuses because of marginal nitrates. So anything now, I just test everything. Okay? It's just better to be safe than sorry. So that'd be the only, I guess, advice I would give to everybody, because it can be bad. So I don't know what else we're going to talk about this. I think diversity is important because this makes a safer grazing experience for the cattle. So that's going to help mitigate if there is some high nitrates or something, because they're going to eat, other stuff too. So diversity helps, but if your primary goal is grazing, then I think I think you can get too carried away with diversity too in a couple ways. One, seed costs can get really expensive, and two, um, the sorghum sedans, your forage sorghums, you know, those are the things that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck for your grazing. So we do use diversity, but if we know we're going to graze it, we kind of tweak our mixes like this. 8 pounds would be a good rate even for us. If we get much above that, then we tend to not see a lot of the other stuff we plant because that sorghum sedan will dominate. So then in our mixes, we like to use some forage sorghum even at real low rates, especially if we're going to winter stockpile, because that'll actually give you a little grain on the head sometimes, and the leaves will stay on better for winter stockpile than like this sorghum sedan here. And all the varieties are different. It seems like that some of them will lose their leaves pretty rapidly once you get into fall and winter, and then your forage, quality is going to decline pretty rapid. So,
which this is rented ground, so we'll be off it November.
Yep. So you'll be fine here. So, and I guess some other problems we've had. Talk about the problems, I guess, but we've turned out into big tall stuff before, and we've really screwed up some eyes on some calves because they're walking through this stuff coming back to water, and we've pretty much eliminated that problem when we manage them more like daily move situations. So the cattle are going in and they're eating and tromping this, and then they can come back to water and they're not walking through that stuff. So I don't know, we've made a lot of mistakes and done it for a long time. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them, at least from our operation, our standpoint. So. So the question was, do we back graze or back fence? It depends. Like in the summer, or like when it's growing, then we'll set up a long corridor here. Like for this field, say we'd have our water here, we would make a long, narrow corridor, and then we would strip graze away from it, or this way. And we try to make our corridors narrow enough that we can get all the way to the end before we get regrowth. Because once if you get down there a half mile from water and this is starting to regrow, they're not going down there. So we try to narrow up those corridors to get through it like in a week if we can. Now in the winter, it doesn't matter. So we might split a quarter section into thirds and be 880 feet, and not have to worry about it. So, but, on cropland especially, we might have water along an edge, and then we're strip grazing away from that is how we do it. How many animal days are you getting off this, you think, the way you're grazing it? Or have you figured it yet? Just started? Okay. What are you expecting? Or what are you hoping for?
Hopefully till November. I'd like a little cover here. We'll probably go back to oats next spring, but as long as they get it mainly, leave a little here for cover and
pretty sandy
snow and
tough.
I think you could, like if we were moving these cattle every day here, just looking at this, like here, and if it's better over there, it's going to be different, but I'm confident that we could probably take 80 animal days an acre off of this is probably where I'd start, and then I would adjust. Like,
I think that's what, when we were kind of just doing rough math, I think that's what I came up with was like half an acre per day for their 40 cows. I think that's that's about what
about the math would be about 80.
Yep.
So that's just me looking at it. That's kind of what I do. So I can look at this and say, I think it's going to make 80, so we'll set up a few paddocks at 80 animal days, and then we adjust. If we didn't give them enough, or we're giving them too much, and we'll pinch them down. And that's just
lost 4 acres around this, and we got 14 bales. I suppose they probably weighed 14 something.
yeah.
Just
So
two round, 3/4 way around it, 2 strips down the center.
So there's a lot of ways to think of it. If you think of in bales per acre, that's great. Well, a lot of people do that. It's like, okay, this is going to make, I don't know how many bales that is, If this is going to make this many bales an acre and a cow eats this much feed, then you can do the math and figure it that way. So I convert everything to animal days just because that's what we do and how I'm used to it now. So if you if you're good at that, if you put up a lot of hay and you can do that, then just do the math on that, and I bet you it comes really close to 80 animal days an acre. Just my guess, so.
Any other questions?
I am not an expert by any means, so I've just made a lot of mistakes,
You're
so.
2 hours away from home. The hell you
Yeah,
are.
right.
That's
So,
right. You're 2 hours from home, you're an
um,
expert.
So yeah, this is awesome. I'm glad you guys are doing it. So don't do anything that I'm doing, so, but I'm happy to help you out, so. What will you follow this with next year?
I think probably go back to oats in the spring for hay, just for hay, and then
Uh-huh.
don't know what after.
Probably not Milo with this, okay?
Well, you can, but.
You can, but, and
I
that's,
think it had a lot of Milo before we
Yeah.
had it. I guess mostly wheat, beans, Milo rotation.
yeah. So that's one thing we see too, is when we do full season cover crops like this, and that kind of, then we start having more of this stuff in our Milo crops, so we gotta watch that. We still do it because this is what we want, this type of grazing. So just like what he said, a lot of times in our operation, when we do this stuff, we might do full season cover crops for, 2 or 3 or 4 years in a row like this to graze. And then typically in our system, we'll go to oats in the spring, just like what you're talking. And then maybe switch to cool seasons for several years. Like we'll switch to like triticale based mixes, and then we'll do that for 3 or 4 years in a row. And then we've kind of cleaned up a lot of problems where we could plant Milo again. So that's just something to keep in mind. We have done probably 3 or 4 times where if we know we're not going to graze something like this, so we would see triticale right standing through this, like right now, just drill it. And this time of year even. And we had really good success in probably, 17, 18, 19 when we were getting decent moisture, but since then it's been a 0. But what that did was in the winter, then if we stockpile grazed it, we had that triticale down there for protein. And then we also, like we were grazing it, and then that triticale was there, and we were harvesting that and selling it for seed. And so we were making, that was very profitable per acre when you can start doing stuff like that. But we haven't been able to make that work in our area for the last 5 or 6 years. But you guys here, that might be something to consider too.
What was your rainfall in 17, 18, and 19? How many inches?
So those years we were probably bumping 28-ish. So, and we're in a 22 to 24 inch zone. But we haven't had normal rainfall. We haven't hit normal rainfall in over 5 years now. So, is where we're at. So I don't know how much you get here. 20,
26 to 30.
26, 30. Some years you get 20, some years you get 40.
10 to 40 would be that.
I guess, so.
That's supposed to be,
So-
that's what it's supposed to be, is 26 to 30.
So that is an idea if you wanted to drill right through this, standing like this, triticale. You could probably make that work here more often than we could. So, but you will wreck some of your forage here too. So it's a trade-off. What we found is anytime you can stack forage crops, like with a grain crop, or we'll do triticale type mixes and we'll graze them through the winter, and then we harvest that for seed. So we're stacking enterprises on those same acres. Our profitability is good doing stuff like that. So, any other questions? I'll turn it over to Candy. She looks like she wants to talk.
Well, I'm still kind of a rookie at this. Kind of doing the same thing you are with the strip grazing, and I'm not really doing a good job with figuring out the animal unit days and that stuff. It's more, the guys I've rented to, they don't usually bring a lot of animals, so I just kind of observe, and it's usually 4 to 5 days, sometimes a week when I move them. Depends on the time of year. I'm just learning as I go. Oh, yeah, we did some Brix readings. We did the sorghum sedan was.
It was actually lower, and you can see it. I mean, this is using using up whatever residual nitrogen you had, right? Where are you? There you are. You didn't fertilize this, did you?
Like 20 pounds.
20 pounds, yeah.
Roughly.
So it's low in nitrogen, but when we compare that to the legumes, right?
Yeah.
They were at 10, so you can see the difference. You know, nitrogen is a big deliverer besides zinc of photosynthetic process. So when you have more nitrogen, then you have more sugars, and you can see when you have these. This one might be a better one that we should probably have done. It's a little darker green because we did a little lighter up here at the top, and it was in the 4s.
Yeah.
And then our legumes were 10 on the sun hemp, and the cowpeas were about 8. And then what else did we do? We did that. Yeah. Yeah, the color difference is pretty amazing. And then when you squish it and you see it, I mean, yeah, it's the difference between Mountain Dew and you know.
But it's a balance on the nitrogen, because if you over fertilize it, when you get in the dry stretch, then you just burn up that much faster. And, yeah.
We can, yeah. And then we were looking at on this one here. He found some nice, even little mushrooms that were growing on there. So from the saprotropes, it's growing some there on the surface. But it is. How long have you been doing this? Has this been no-till all its life?
It's we've only had it 2 years.
You had 2 years. You can tell because it's new in its journey. It's structure-wise. You can see you got some danglers there, but it's pretty dense. So after your grazing event, is this your first or second?
This will be first.
Then come back out next year after you've planted whatever it is you're going to do, and take a look at it again, especially if you've grazed it the way that Kevin said, you know, where you get some utilization, but you also get some trampling and get more carbon in it. I think you'll see a difference, you know, just from a spade in the ground aspect.
So the reason we move cattle every day is, well, there's a lot of reasons we do it. So if we were just going to set stock this, you might get 40 animal days per acre. And if we can manage our grazing and move them at least once a day, routinely we will double that. Okay, so we do it for financial reasons. But we also do it for, you know, you just get better forage utilization, you get way better manure and urine distribution in the field as well. Does it take a little time to do that? And it depends how far you are away from it. You know, if you're 20 miles away from this field, you're not going to do it. Okay, so there's a lot of things that come into play, and that's okay. But if you can, you know, if you are close and you can do this sort of thing, then you really will see a big difference from our experience. So.
You really think that manure distribution thing is that even where you're just doing forage after forage, you can still see that manure distribution issue between a set stock and your daily?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Yeah, manure distribution is night and day difference when you move cattle every day versus when you set stock them even for 2 or 3 days, because what you see is the cattle, they go graze and then they go back to the water is what we'll see. And then they get up and they, you know, poop and pee, and that's where it's at. When you move cattle every day, their behavior changes. So typically they'll go to water and then they're going back because they don't want to miss out on the next forage. So most of the time they're going to be out, you know, in your strips where your forage is, waiting on that next move. You will see, like when it's 110 degrees, you know, you might see them around the water a bit more, but it's certainly, their behavior changes when you move them every day. And that's okay if you don't too, okay? I'm not telling you have to move cattle every day, so don't tell anybody I said that, but you have to do what's right for your operation, and this, you know, if this works for you, then, you know, you're moving forward.
It's a little higher, the darker. Yeah, it went to 6 from 4 to 6, right?
Yep. I was just gonna share last year on my soybeans, they were just loaded with aphid, and I started taking readings, and I had anywhere from 9 to 14. I was going out
on those same spots every day. And every day there were fewer and fewer aphids, and they never were feeding on beans. But I had just thousands of Asian lady beetles, and they all came in the house.
Yeah, they do. They like to overwinter. They want you to keep them alive.
We're gonna, unless there's a burning question, we're gonna keep on moving. We got one more field stop. We're gonna go head up real quick, and then we'll get back